All right, so today I have a question for you. And I'm not asking you this question so that you'll go in the comment section and answer it in the comment section. If that's something that you want to do, feel free to do that. But this question is more so a rhetorical question so that you can go within your own mind and start to really think about this. This question is to challenge you, to challenge the way that you think, right? Because a lot of us have a certain way that we see money, right? A lot of us think that it's about how much we make. And that is important. Don't get me wrong. It is important to make money. It's important to earn money, right? But the other side of it is, it really doesn't matter how much you earn. The question is, how much do you keep out of what you have earned, right? The question that I think that you have to ask yourself is, number one, how much have I made over the last 5 years? How much money have I made over the last 5 years? I think what this will tell me is, if I'm not making the kind of money that I want to make, then I have to step up my efforts, or maybe I have to choose something different than what I'm currently doing. Or maybe I have to add on to what I'm doing, right? So if the revenue is that important, then we have to look at it and say, how much have I made? How much money have I made over the last 5 years as a business owner, as an employee, whatever line of work you're in, from what you've produced, right, over the last 5 years, what is that number? What is the number that you have that you can look at and say, this is the amount I've made? 500,000? Is that 1 million over the last 5 years? Or is that 5 million? How much have you produced over the last 5 years, right? Now, that's important, but this is even more important. The second question: how much do you have today from the money that you've made? How much do you have right now from the $1 million that you've made over the last 5 years? That is the question. That will tell you something about you. That question will tell you something about your leadership style. That question will tell you something about your results. And we can't just ignore that. We have to look at that, examine that, and find out what is really going on, right? Because some people have made $1 million over the last 5 years, but they don't have anything today to show for the $1 million that they've made, because they make $200,000 and they spend $200,000, or they spend $225,000 or $250,000, right? Because at the end of the day, when we really look at it, that's mismanagement. That's mismanagement of the money you're making, right? We have a lot of things as people that live in America, the land of the free, the home of the brave. We are the richest people in the world when you look at how much money is circulating in America, how much money people actually make, right? But when we start to measure those same people's wealth, that's a horse of a different color. That's not the same. Matter of fact, that's a very different picture. And I think a lot of that is because we have been misinformed, right? We don't really understand what it means to be successful financially, because most of us think that it's about having things, right? Having liabilities, buying liabilities, not purchasing assets. But now that's the real way to build wealth. You have to purchase assets. And when you take a look at your personal situation right now, if you have a negative net worth, or if you have a very little net worth, or if you don't know what net worth is, you have more than likely a lot of liabilities lying around and very little to none when it comes down to assets, right? So an understanding that you have has led you in the direction that you have gone. So in order to correct that, you have to correct how you see money. You have to correct how you see business, right? And I mean, even if you're an employee, how you see business and how you see the business of money, right? And if you don't have anything today, if you have very little, matter of fact, if you, hey, say I have 10% of that 500,000 or that million that I've made, that's better than not having anything. But 10% is not going to be sufficient when it comes down to you living and enjoying the time after you have decided that you're not going to work anymore, right? When you get 62 years old, or when you get 50 years old, or however, whatever the number is, when you get to that number and you say, hey, I'm not working anymore, although I believe that it's not about how old you are. I believe that the number is based on how much money you have. That determines whether or not you can retire, how much money you got. That is what makes it make you say, hey, I don't have to go to work anymore, right? Not because you've received necessarily because you've reached a certain age, but how much money do I have so I can retire now because I'm good on the money, right? But if you don't have any money, if you haven't saved anything, then you have a problem on your hands, right? And that says something about you when it comes down to it, because you've been making money, but something has taken your attention, something has taken you off course, and you haven't been keeping the money that you make. See, that's what it's really about. Not necessarily about how much you make, although we want to make as much as we can make. It's how much you keep out of that number. What do you have left, right? If I made $1 million, I would want to have at least 40% left at the end of the day. At the end of that 5 years, I would want 400,000 left at minimum out of that $1 million. To me, that is responsible. To me, that is how a CEO would look at building a successful business and also building his own fortune, right? How he's going to build his own net worth. Building it based off of saying, hey, I'm going to save at least 40%. However you decide to save that money is on you. Whether you decide to save it via investments or you decide to save it liquid, however that is, that you decide that, but 40% is what I would want to have out of that $1 million, 400,000. Then I feel like, man, I have a good base to stand on now, right? I say, okay, now I have some money. Not necessarily the amount of money that I want to achieve or to have for the rest of my life, but I have a good point to keep moving on from, right? To keep building from. Does that make sense? I hope it does. That's what I wanted to share with you today. It's all about earning money because that's what we have to do. That's just a part of it. But the intelligence comes in. The good management skills have to be applied in order for you to keep money, right? You have to have an understanding of money, a discipline about yourself to keep it. That is the one that is winning, that person that knows how to save, knows how to invest, knows how to make more money. Because think about it. We're not poor because we don't make money. What we are poor, or what we're middle class, or what we're rich, we're one of those three things because of how we think about money. Your psychology when it comes to money. How do you think about money? And if you're poor, most poor people think that it's all about making enough money to pay the bills, right? That's how poor people think about money. I got to make enough money to pay the bills. And if you just think about making enough money to pay the bills, you'll make enough money to pay the bills, right? When you think about how middle class think about it, how they think about money, the middle class says, hey, I want to make enough money so that I can build great credit, right? I want to make sure that I have good credit so that I can buy things that I really can't afford. That's how middle class people think about money. Now, here's the difference. This is why rich people are rich. Because how they see it is, when I make $1, it's all about how I can make this dollar make an additional dollar. That's what it's about when it comes down to how rich people think and how everybody else thinks. So when you think of those three ways of how people think about money, if you had to choose one, which one would you choose? Have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.